Hey guys, Curtis here, Tailgater's Tip of the Day 74. Today I'm going to show you two examples of how the pros play down the line as opposed to cross the line. The principle is giving yourself the most margin for error and speed control. It's important in all games. A lot of times in 8-ball, it's really important bar table because you have only a smaller window, so you don't want to cross that line. And by showing you two examples and a couple of ways to play each, you will learn to recognize all of these. So I'm going to show you them right now. I just feel like a lot of people tell you to come down the line, not across it, but they don't really explain what that means. And this will help quantify or, just get these examples in your head so you can recognize them when you're playing. So example number one, I'm going to show you something. Let's say a lot of times an 8-ball is down around here. If you had to come down, let's say this happens a lot in 9-ball as well, for sure. But on a bar table, let's say you had to, this doesn't have to be the 8-ball, but if you have to come down, this would be an example. There's a couple of ways to play this. But what you don't want to do, down the line means, you think of this. If you think of a wedge, so a lot of people would play, the natural is to come here and play down around here. But you got to remember that you're coming down through the narrow neck of it, which means across the line, the perfect line. Means your margin for error, if you come up short, you don't have a shot. And how many times does this happen to you? The ball's down here and you come down to here. Now you don't have a shot in this corner. Well, the way to avoid that is there's two ways. You can do it either with stun and down the line, or, and this you'll notice, we'll start with the first one. When someone comes into here, the top players will, if it's natural to put top spin and bump this rail, they will do it. Even if it's a little more and it's not natural, they'll put inside to check it and come down this because they don't want to have to be perfect on their shape. So for example, here, I would not stun to here and come across the line. I would always make sure, and this is great for practicing too, to find the natural lines. So set it up a few times. You just do this for 5 or 10 minutes over and over till you really see what a top spin would do. So here, look, it's almost impossible now that I'm coming down the line. I can do this and have a shot so routinely if I do this by bumping this rail. It's unbelievable how much more my margin for error would be. Think about that. And you can learn to recognize these shots all over the table. But my speed control is like, even if I'm short, like I didn't hit that, I laid up on that, I'm still coming down, I got a shot. So bumping this rail on a shot like that means you're coming across, or you're coming down, not across, okay? So you always want to come in. Another way of, instead of thinking about coming across the line, you can think about as a wedge. If you're coming into the wider area of the wedge, you're doing something right. Here's another example. In this case, let's say, for example, let's say there was a bunch of balls here and I couldn't do that. I got to get on this side. There could be, especially an 8-ball. Well, what they would do is, like I said, is you want to come to here and you'd like to come down the line. So you stun it to here, come down the line. What you don't want to do, so many people would do this, is draw this and try and get perfectly down here. For you advanced players, a way to even do this more is you stun it into here with a little bit of outside and it opens it up a bit. That'll help you. But the point here is you do not draw into here. It makes it way more difficult. If I just can avoid just the side pocket, watch how it's going to come down towards the line, okay? That's very, very important. That's one example. Another example that you see a lot in all games, example number 2, would be the 8-ball oftentimes, for example, is around here. It could be here. It doesn't really matter. Like, let's say the 8-ball's here. What most people are going to do if they're faced with this shot here, I see this a lot, is they're going to try and come here. There's two things they do. They try and come here, and And then they come across the line again. You can't come across that line. It's your margin for error is too. What I do instead of doing this, I know you can stun this and come down the line. But I just put here with natural. I find the natural, and if I can bump anywhere here, I'm coming down the line, right? So on a shot like this, as long as I hit that second rail, I will have a shot. So as long as I hit anywhere on here, I'm coming down the line. That's for sure the right shot. If there were stuff here, I'm going to show you something that a lot of pros. So let's say this happens a lot here, the ball's here. If there were stuff in the way here, and all the pros do this, watch, and you had no choice but to bump here and come down the line, if you had to stun it into here, what you don't want to do again is stun it to where you're coming towards the scratch line for starters. You could scratch into here, but also don't have a shot. Okay, I have a cut, I'm perfect. Don't have a shot, scratch. So what you always want to do is draw, instead of stunning it down here and coming down here, you want to always bump this rail. It might take a little practice. It's harder, actually, much harder on a bar table. On a big table, this area plays way bigger because it's a much longer rail. So this is something I would practice. You could probably, from an angle like this, you just set it up. You see, you want to be bumping here. So in order to do that, you could do it with just draw. We'll try that. If draw is tough for you, you could do it with draw and a little outside to open it up, okay? But we'll just see where draw gets us here. So let's say the ball's here and here. Let's just see. What I really want to do is make sure that I bump that second rail. See? So now there's no scratch involved, and I know that if I hit it harder, I'd be coming down the line. But I still have a shot here. No scratch, coming down the line, okay? So play with those. These are some fun examples. You'll also really start to learn where the cue ball is going on some of these shots. But what we want to do is really figure out, see how much more, now my margin for error is down the line, okay? If you're coming across the line, I'm telling you, that's how you get in lots of trouble. This helps a lot in bar table 8 ball, where if there's a little window of where a ball goes and doesn't go, coming down that window is great, right? But if you're trying to get perfectly into that little zone, it's just not realistic. Leaving yourself a longer shot in the bar table is not a big problem, but being on the line is all you need, okay? So those are some examples of coming down the line, not across the line. To help you visualize it, you can, here's perfect. And here, for example, so in this case, here's good, all the way to there. So as long as we're coming through the bigger part of the wedge and not across the narrow neck, the more closer you are to that narrow neck, your margin for error becomes. So especially on a bar table, you don't need to be close to your work. You need to be playing into zones. Okay, so this is very helpful for a lot of you players that don't play perfect position. None of us really do. There's so much, change in cloth, rails, everything, that if you're playing down the lines, your margin for error goes up quite a bit. So really start to recognize those, and in all games, you'll start to play better. Thanks. That was Tip of the Day 74. I'll be back with 75 tomorrow.